Hello there, fellow game children. It is I, Cool Teacher, here to tell you that even though you might have some fun in your cyber games, don't play the murder simulators.
But I want to play the murder simulator.
No, it'll turn you into a rabid monster capable of anything.
Yeah, that's what I like. I like it like that. I want Uncle Sam to send me off to war.
No.
And I'll put many holes in the men out there.
See,
and some of the women and the children, too. And then Uncle Sam will send me back, and I'll say, hey, there's a mall. That looks like a fun shooting mall.
This is what happens when children have video games.
Yeah!
You'd be going to church. Why can't you have fun like I did? Going to church and sitting still and listening to old-time radio.
And watch the man bleed on the sticks?
Yeah, you know, pleasant, good things, not your thing, which is bad and turns you into an evil person.
Oh, shit. Brop, 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 brop. It's the GTA episode of Wizard and the Bruiser. And who asked for that? You did, you loser. I'm Holden McNeely. You can call me the Bruiser today, won't you? Won't you, please?
And I guess I'm the wizard this week.
I fucking guess, Jake.
I'm casting a spell, and, guys, researching this took longer than, like, actually beating a GTA game, and I feel like we still are not going to scratch the surface on this.
Yeah, we'll see where we get to here. This is the entire GTA franchise. I mean, it is unbelievably storied. There is so many crazy little ins and outs, just its longevity is so mind-blowing, how consistently solid GTA titles have come out over the years and continued to be, like, you know, now it's an event. If a new GTA comes out, it's an event, and everyone treats it with this certain due respect. And also, you know, kind of like with bated breath, waiting for all the controversy as well, and lawsuits and all sorts of craziness.
It feels like Grand Theft Auto is one of those properties that are actually bigger than video games itself. Because, like, you know, there's video games, and then there's just, like, Madden and Call of Duty and League of Legends and World of Warcraft. These, like...
Yeah, games that I put in the category pussy bitches. But I do not call them that, actually, please. EA Sports, don't get upset.
But Grand Theft Auto is its own thriving community that exists kind of outside of classic gaming. I mean, the fact is... I know for a fact, Holden, you and Marcus are still playing GTA 5 to this day.
Absolutely.
Years after it came out.
Absolutely. I got it for Lexi Loves Game Night every Monday night on Twitch from 9 to 11 p.m. Holden Nader's Ho. And
plug it.
Unbelievable. Got the plug in early. And I just immediately played through the whole main story, and I'm excited to get to the online mode stuff. I've had to take a break for certain Zelda reasons, but we'll, you know, I want to get back to it. It's like, and the online community is still thriving today. Have you even messed with the online yet?
Yeah,
Marcus?
I never have.
It's its own
Cool.
economy right now.
Yeah.
There's a stock market. People rob each other. There's like a huge racket of people kind of hacking into other accounts illegally to get the GTA dollars. And it's not like other online currencies where there's some kind of like money laundering thing. You can't do anything with GTA money outside of GTA, and people are still risking jail time to get that sweet, sweet dosh.
It's its own little world.
But let's harken back to a little game called Lemmings first.
Oh, my God, in heaven. I mean, actually, it is really interesting.
PC gaming in the 90s.
DMA Design, making lots of lemming games. David Jones, he made the Lemmings game. Made it very popular back in Dundee, Scotland.
Dundee, Scotland. You mean the failing manufacturing town in Bumblefuck, Scotland?
It's like the Australia of Scotland or something. What's going on? Why is it called Dundee?
Just a hopeless, bleak place, as was most of Northern England in the 90s. It's weird how a lot of creators are like, British people that like had no economic prospects, or sad Japanese boys. That's a lot of our heroes right now.
Yeah, it is. It's very true. Well, so Mike Daly and David Jones programmed the game. They released it in 1993 as a part of DMA Design. It became this massive fucking hit, sold over 15 million copies overall. I mean, I do remember, I wasn't as much of a PC gamer. I still am not at this point. You were, and did you play the shit out of Lemmings?
Yeah. I played Lemmings, SimCity, Warcraft 2, all of that shit. Civilization.
Yep.
Yeah, dude. Fucking loved all of it.
Hundreds of levels, right? You just kind of almost endless in its puzzles.
I mean, the core appeal of Lemmings, I think, was less the puzzles and more the fact that it just used a few programming tricks to have 100 simultaneous, well-animated characters on screen that you could murder. Like, I don't know anybody who actually, like, solved the puzzles on Lemmings. They just kind of, like, tooled around, got bored, and hit the nuke button and watched the tiny, tiny little people grab their heads and explode one by one.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, it's so funny, too.
You must have had a better sound card than I did, because I don't remember that screen.
That's what I heard in my head.
He heard in his head.
Oh, you didn't have a Raptor XVX4573?
No,
I had the Diamond Blaster Sound Nazi.
Hell yeah, that's what I call my penis. All right. I don't refer to my penis as a Nazi.
Holden,
please.
fun fact. Do you know what DMA Design stands for?
Don't mess with my ass.
Well, depending on who you ask, it could stand for Direct Memory Access, which was an old protocol when programming for the Amiga, or doesn't mean anything.
Oh.
Either is considered a correct response.
And definitely it's not don't mess with my ass.
That would be DMWA Design.
DMWMA, actually. That would
cut his mic.
Don't mess ass.
Don't mess ass. If I had gotten that right, though, how fucking cool would I be in this fucking school right now? Everybody be screaming my name. So David Jones wanted to create a virtual world that people could live in after Lemmings. He wanted to create a town that he felt like he could actually be in and make things happen in. So,
well, that was the dream for games forever.
Right? Everybody wanted it.
There was an old game called Elite, which was available for a lot of like old 8-bit systems where you kind of flew around in a 3D space taking up gigs, and it was like, very crude wireframe graphics, but it was considered the first open world game.
And I learned a bit more about Elite because of all this, especially because one Sam Hauser would rush off to the arcades and on his computer and play Elite.
Oh, we're going to talk about Sammy House.
We're going to talk about fucking Sam Hauser, all right? So David Jones creates this game called Race and Chase. It's originally cops chasing crooks, but, well, let's just cut straight to the Race and Chase.
Oh,
come on. Everybody's with me right now. Everybody's with me right.
Not Race and Chase. It's a fun game with a top-down perspective where you're a clean-cut cop who's protecting the safety of everyone, where you get to drive according to the law and chase.
And you get penalized for hitting civilians and different things like that. And
you have to obey the stop signs.
Obey the stop signs to essentially play GTA how my girlfriend likes to play GTA, which is by not avoiding killing people at all costs and literally stopping at every traffic light, which doesn't make me crazy.
It is infuriating to watch.
So, but that is until a couple of key. I'm not even gonna call them players. I'm gonna call them playas. Sam and Dan Hauser. Let's give a little background here to the Hauser brothers. Sam, born in 1971. They lived in London town.
They had a hot mom.
Yes.
And a cool dad.
Hot mom and a cool ass dad. Mom played. Mom named Geraldine Moffat. Is that her name, or was that the character's name in Get Shorty?
Get Carter.
Get Carter? Oh,
She was a hot lady in British gangster films, and she ended up marrying the owner of a jazz club, and they had 2 kids, and they lived in a nice place in London, and they immediately rebelled against them.
Yes.
And were like, fuck you, we like rap.
Yes. They immediately became obsessed with Def Jam Records. It was a huge, huge part of their growing up, and especially Rick Rubin. Also, they were into Slayer and stuff like that, which was also Rick Rubin produced. He was Sam Hauser especially was incredibly inspired by Rick Rubin going out in New York, just fucking doing what he wanted, making badass records out of the underground, just being incredibly prolific with what he did, working tirelessly to make an intense amount of product. It was all incredibly inspiring.
On top of that, the kind of what we now know is street level marketing. With all these
guerrilla fucking marketing. Yes.
With underground shows and stickers and word of mouth and just all these stunts to get attention outside of traditional mainstream publications.
Absolutely. And just and along with Def Jam, New York itself. Right, but just hugely, just this mystical, wonderful place to the Hauser brothers.
I mean, New York in the '90s was a mystical place.
Yeah, exactly.
80s and 90s.
And so, Dan Hauser, the younger brother, right? Dan Hauser is, I believe. Yes, he was a big fan of the film The Warriors. He was a big film buff, and he kind of followed his older brother's lead in a lot of ways in terms of the cultural influence. Well, they both get a job at BMG Entertainment.
The Bertelsmann Group?
The Bertelsmann Group.
Yes, we love the rock and roll records.
It stands for Big Money Gurus, right, Jake?
No, it stands for Bertelsmann Group. We are a very prolific media company based in Deutschland.
So he's making music videos. And is one of the first. I think it was with an Annie Lennox album, but I can't remember exactly. He was the first one to go to the heads there and say, "Hey, I got a kooky idea. Let's build an entire website around this new album." And it was like one of the first times. I mean, we're talking about this is back in the late 80s, early 90s.
It has to be early 90s.
Yeah.
He famously, I think his dad took him to a trip to New York that kind of cemented his love of the city. And his dad, having been like a muckety-muck in the British music scene, met with a muckety-muck at the Bertelsmann Group, and Sam just kind of sassed the Bertelsmann Group guy, being like, "Oi, what the fuck? Your record business ain't nothing but old fogies.
Bunch of old biggles and boggles, it is. Oh, get me a shoe shine, I'll tell you what a shiny penny can be.
I know what's cool."
A tip for you, a trick or two to change the music business. It doesn't.
So he got a job at Bertelsmann Group and quickly hustled his way into these into basically taking on these digital and interactive segments of the company that no one was really giving much credit or supervision, really.
And creating that website was really the first time Sam Hauser taking a little influence from Rick Rubin's guerrilla marketing. This was the first time he was coming up with new and different ways in order to sell product, and it really benefited hugely. It was like a giant success, and they ended up putting him into the role of executive producer into the video game department. So we kind of got moved into that, more digital. Dan Hauser was testing CD-ROMs in '95 for BMG. So he was sort of had a more entry level position.
Can you imagine a better job than testing CD-ROMs in 1995? Making sure those grainy videos were just small enough to run on a 486.
This copy of Encarta is working superbly.
Oh my god! How many?
Seventh guest, more like seventh best.
I remember going to my buddy's house. He was had a new computer, and I was all excited to mess with it. And he just threw on Encarta. I was like, "What are we doing here?" He's learn about ants. You want to learn about some fun ants? And I was like, I got to call my mom, and I'm just like, Mommy, he's touching me. I had to come up with something, to get out of there. That's how bad I didn't like it.
This one disc replaces an entire wall of books.
He's touching me. He's touching me. He's touching me. He's touching me. That's what now. Whenever I get into an argument with Lexi, in order to get out of it, I start yelling "molest" to try to get a neighbor to come down.
Holden, wait till I tell you about the fable of the boy who cried sexual assault.
So, anywho, they the reason why this gets connected with DMA Design. Let's bring it all together now, right? Does BMG acquire DMA Design, I believe?
This is one of the things that gave me the biggest headache.
Yeah, I had a hard time between this and then the Take-Two later on.
And then Gremlin graphics.
Gremlins in there, just mixing it up, shaking it up. Literally a gremlin got into the office.
So, the Hauser brothers and there's more people, but we're simplifying things.
Super Hauser Bros.
Kind of get BMG to have their own interactive subsidiary, BMG.
Big money gangsters.
And they actually take Race and Chase as one of their projects. Because the way the video game industry works, there's developers and there's publishers. And so, publishers promise to release and finance the game. And the developers take that security and just work, even though they don't get as big of a cut if they had self-published.
Work.
And DMA Designs was actually this booming software house in what was an otherwise economically depressed area, Deeds. And so they're kind of killing it because, Lemmings was a huge international success. They're getting contracts with Nintendo. They're getting contracts with Sony. They're in demand. They're a proven development house. So in Scotland, there's all these nerds, and they're having nerd bro adventures, pranking each other. One developer famously never took a shower, and they had to at one point just cover his entire desk in scented pine tree card fresheners.
Oh God!
They were having live bands come in to play for them in their studios. They bought a motion capture setup. They were just kind of being nerds and having a lot of big money times over there. Meanwhile, the Hausers were cool bros, also spending a lot of money. Guys, it was the 90s. The economy worked. Everyone had money.
Things was popping off. It was crazy. So the Hausers get a hold of this of a prototype of Race and Chase, and it's wow, this is amazing. This is everything a game could be, except for it's fucking boring. Because you're a good guy. One
tester famously called it a simulated driving instructor game. Imagine a GTA game where even winging a pedestrian would just completely end your fun.
So it was the Hausers who said, "Why don't we, make this fun by making you incredibly evil?" Because that's way more fun than being a cop. Let's make you a gangster, a criminal. Inspired by the films his mother was in, inspired by all these things growing up, Def Jam, Attitude, all that kind of stuff. They said, let's give this fucking edge. Let's make this evil, And the harder they pushed it, the farther in that direction they went, because the more fun they found the game to be.
Also, and from DMA's perspective, they had this weird little engine where the city was rendered in crude 3D, but all the people and cars were sprites. And so from the overhead perspective, you could have a lot of activity going on. The city felt more vibrant and active than previous games could let it could happen. God, I'm sorry, guys. I'm real tired today.
No, so
can I? Do you remember the quote Hauser said? Sam said is once we saw that you could kill cops, we knew we had something that could turn some heads.
And turn heads they did. They changed the name, of course, to Grand Theft Auto after that point. Also, they had a PR guru, Max Clifford. I think this, again, is sort of Sam kind of masterminding the sensationalism and sort of drumming things up. So he gets this PR guy who who, by the way, more recent clients include Simon Cowell and David Copperfield before he allegedly before he went away for allegedly doing some nasty shit to young girls. So that's he is a piece of shit. But his name is Max Clifford, and he was actually drumming up frenzy and things. He said the Police Federation of England and Wales was persuaded to denounce the game as sick, diluted, and beneath contempt. This is all his doing, unleashing a frenzy of outrage in which the British and American media enthusiastically joined. When people did see the game, you could see the deflation in them, Jones remembers, as they saw what they'd been campaigning against, but they couldn't back down at that point. So in other words, he got them to freak out about the game, which has been a GTA thread. You'll You'll see this happening through all the games. People freak the fuck out based on a few things that they've heard without actually playing it, and then they actually play it, but by that point they're in too deep. They have to continue to drum up this insane controversy, you know? So GTA is like defiled and just this evil, bad, awful, horrible thing.
That and Postal were like the two games where people were terrified that you could actually be bad.
Yeah, and it was, I remember, okay, so this
And
was...
I had both of them, and I fucking loved them.
Yes,
Hey,
okay.
Marcus,
so, yeah.
what's your main source of income these days?
Violence!
Cool.
Didn't fuck with me at all. Didn't desensitize me in the least bit. I'm totally fine. It wasn't like I spent hours playing Grand Theft Auto and Postal when I was 15 years old and it broke something inside of me. That didn't happen. Not at all.
So how did you...
Let's watch Evil Dead 2 again.
How did you come to acquire this game, and what was the experience like? Because we don't know. I didn't come into this until GTA 3.
If it's on PC, you just kind of like...
I was a PC gamer kid, and I'd go to the Mall of Abilene in Abilene, Texas. I'd go to Babbage's, which was the PC store there.
The world of the future. Electronics beyond imagination.
Yeah, it sounds like a very British place itself.
Yeah.
Bobbages. Oh, it hurts me pinky at Bobbages.
Babbage's.
Ooh.
Yeah, and so I think I was 14 or 15 or something like that, and I had a job, so I had like spending money to buy whatever the fuck I wanted. So I was just like, oh,
You don't have to lie to us. We all know you didn't have a job. It's fine, Marcus.
I worked at Lawrence Brothers sacking groceries along with the other mental deficients.
The unwanted. You can say.
But yeah, so I was like, Grand Theft Auto, that looks cool as shit. I wonder what that is. And bought it and took it home. I was like, this is the best fucking game I've ever played in my entire life.
Because you can, were you into the missions, or was it just the chaos? Because even back then,
It was
right,
the
you
chaos.
could just be.
No, I just it was an
Steal
open
a bunch
world.
of cars, pile them up together, see if you could blow them up in one big explosion.
Yeah, and then like steal a car. And for me, the biggest thrill was just it was just a straight up steal a car, start running people over, get the attention of the cops. Kill cops, see how long you could go. That was it. That was for me. That was my favorite part of the game.
I liked how there was the line of Hare Krishna or Jogger. No, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, the Hare
They're
Krishnas.
all walking in a line, and if you ran them over in one big sweep, the screen would blast Garunga.
Yeah, I know. Garunga was my favorite.
One of the
Garunga.
One of the devs, just, and this is kind of where things went. Like the farther they pushed it, the more they pushed. One of the devs just fucking hated Hare Krishnas. They were always in his way, like trying to go to the airport or whatever. And so he just put him in the game so that he could run him over and kill him. I mean, it's just total fantasy fulfillment on that sort of sick, twisted level. And there's a lot of people out there that like to interact that way with a video game in a virtual world. So this game comes out in 1997. It takes place in 3 different cities that I think we'll hear about later on: Liberty City, Vice City, and San Andreas. It had the radio stations. It had a lot of the early things, Even I didn't even realize too. It had that sort of like the faster the car goes, the wider out the map gets. Did it kind of do that? Is that's like a thing that I from the little small compass map you get in 3. Like I love those little things that just kind of continued to click as they went. And that
It was also released for the Game Boy Color.
Yes.
Which,
it was, yeah.
I didn't realize this actually, but doing the research, even though the blood and like a lot of the more unfortunate violent aspects were kind of taken out, it is a 1-to-1 copy of the game. The map of Grand Theft Auto is in the Game Boy Color game, just with like low-res pixel graphics.
That's amazing. So it's pretty successful. People are into it.
It's
right?
a bigger hit in Europe, where PC gaming is more dominant. It
Yes.
doesn't quite make as big a splash in the PlayStation release over here in America and in Japan.
Yeah, it was more about just the fact that relationship formed, right? And this is at a time when video games are trying to, or at least Sony especially, to combat, Nintendo's numbers, to try to be what Nintendo don't, to try to, be more edgy, more adult, more, so they form this relationship. The games do well on PC. Rockstar Games officially forms, right?
So BMG does. I mean, GTA did not set the world on fire. And so BMG actually wanted to get out of the video game business. So a new startup called Take-Two Interactive bought BMG Interactive, and the Hauser brothers decided to reform it under the company Rockstar. So,
and it's at this point that they moved to New York, right?
Correct.
They moved to New York. They changed their name audaciously to Rockstar. And that's kind of a big statement to make to everyone as a game dev community, right? Like, we are rock stars. We are fucking badass. We're going to do something amazing.
Also, that Rockstar is like an antiquated term, that it's like that video games are replacing music as the rebellious medium of the future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so they start to get work on a couple of expansions come out. London 1969, London 1961. Did you play those?
GTA 1969?
Yeah.
No, I only played GTA 1 and 2.
Oh,
but I
okay,
played the
cool.
shit out of 2.
I played
2.
a lot of 2.
2 was
Okay,
fucking
so
amazing.
you come in on 2. Now, I remember being at Electronics Gaming Boutique. That was my mall store. And I remember I was looking at games. I was looking at PlayStation games. Something. I just remember the clerk talking to someone else, just being like, referring to GTA 2, and just being like, it's just disgusting. It's sick. They kill cops. It's deplorable. There's just all, it's just like, and my ears perked up. I'm like, what the fuck is this game? But it felt dangerous. I was like kind of like a scaredy boy, as one might call him. A boy that runs away from things is what you would call the childhood book about me, right? If you were to put me in a children's section of a bookstore, the boy who ran away from many things.
I mean, the original title of this podcast was Two Scared Boys Now Loud.
Yes, Two Scared Boys Now Loud, which is, I love the sequel to The Boy Who Ran Away from Things, Two Scared Boys Now Loud. And at the end of The Boy Who Ran Away from Things, it'll be like, will he finally face his fears and stand up to the monster? And then you turn the page and be like, no. And it's him
But he
running
gets
away.
into comedy.
It's him running away to the magical land of
Through a
Tallahassee.
stage door. Yeah. Imagine this Tallahassee. And a big, fun, happy weed plant. Just like, come here, little scared little boy.
I'll be your personality for a few years.
So I like stayed away from 2, but you played the fuck out of it, Jake.
I played the fuck out of it. It definitely upped the level of parody. This is where like a lot of Rockstar and DMA's kind of very satirical, cynical sides start coming up. I remember specifically it was basically just an upgrade to the original's engine. The sprite work was a lot better. They had a lighting engine. The radio was so much more realistic. It felt like this, like driving around listening to the radio was super cool. They had different gangs where, like, as you completed missions for one, it would make the other gangs fucking hate you. You literally had to save at churches with big signs that said Jesus saves. And it was at this point for GTA 2 that Rockstar really pumped up their like bad boy street team advertising. They like basically trolled that year's E3. They like distributed fake baggies of drugs that had the GTA emblem like on the pills.
Parking tickets on all the cars that were just actually I'd be so mad, man.
Yeah.
There were just advertisements. Somebody within the PR side started a fake website shitting on Rockstar Games as an ad thing, and they didn't know that. So the Hausers are like, "What the fuck is this, right?"
Oh yeah,
you know?
a disgruntled Rockstar employee telling them the dark truth about the GTA team.
It wasn't called Shitstar, but it was something like that, you know? And it was all about like these ridiculous blown up stories about how much of a nightmare it is to work there and stuff. Totally started by somebody within the company as a way to just drum up more guerrilla marketing for Rockstar. They were just full of stuff like that. They just love fucking with people. I mean, that's their story, right? Meanwhile,
across the pond,
blip plop.
a little company called DMA Design was about to go on a magical adventure over a little game called Body Harvest.
Woo!
Body Harvest is a cult classic game for the N64. It involves kind of driving around and shooting bug-like aliens that have invaded Earth and for years have been harvesting humans as fuel and resources. And it's about a cyber soldier who has to fight back. And the problem is DMA Designs agreed to make the game as part of the Nintendo Dream Team, which was this elite squad of third-party developers that Nintendo enlisted to help with the launch lineup of the N64. They had LucasArts, who made Shadows of the Empire for the system. They had Williams, which made Cruisin' USA, and they had Rare that made Killer Instinct, and like the only company that just couldn't quite get its shit together, maybe because they were fucking off in Scotland, just fucking around and making a bunch of other games, was DMA Designs. Now, the N64 was not doing well in Japan. In fact, compared to the PlayStation, it was not a great launch. The Nintendo 64 was a close second for the PlayStation throughout its entire run. So casually, Miyamoto, friendly old Miyamoto, did what Shigeru Miyamoto always
He's
does.
exploring the areas around his house, and that's how he got the inspiration for Zelda.
Every time. Just
You have to say it.
Hey, did you know? Did you? Yeah, we know. Everybody knows.
We get it. He had a love affair with a plumber when he was a child.
Before a gorilla stole his wife. Just casually, it's like, hey, you know that game? They thought the Nintendo of Japan team was like, how do we bump up sales of the N64? Well, the problem is we don't have a big RPG like on PlayStation. You know, we lost Square Enix. We lost a bunch of companies. We need a big RPG. And Miyamoto just casually said, oh, well, hey, what if we just got that those fucking lazy Scotsmen to fucking finally release the game we paid them to make as an RPG? And DMA Designs, as a developer that was, you know, they needed the money from Nintendo to complete the game, said, I mean, it's not an RPG. I mean, sure. So Nintendo flew over a bunch of production staff and overseers and directors, along with the translation staff.
To turn it into an RPG?
Unfortunately, Nintendo brought English translators, and if you've ever been to Scotland, it's barely English. What they
Friday. Yeah.
Oh, for a crocodile, for it's jibble jabble.
Welcome to Picard and
most gribble grabble. I don't know what they're saying.
So why isn't that racist? Either way, I'm just throwing it out there. Double standards.
I mean, it is.
It is.
It is.
Yeah,
it's pretty racist.
Okay.
But
Just depends on what hill you want to die on.
What hill? What grassy green, covered in whiskey bottles?
So
hill.
Nintendo was like, "Fuck it. All right. Well, we still need this game. We still need our lineup is still weak. We've sunk all this money into Body Harvest and DMA Designs. Okay, fuck it. You guys come over here. Come over to Japan." And so they flew out the Body Harvest team to Nintendo's headquarters.
And what would become of it was Final Fantasy 1 for the NES.
So they were trying
12 years after it was released.
After it was released, they wrote the game.
So in Japan, Nintendo of Japan was trying to turn the game into an RPG. But then Nintendo of America also got word that there was this like very technically impressive game that was being developed and was still like ready to, like was just so close to finished but not quite. And on their side of the ocean, the problem with the N64 is that they didn't have any cool shooter games. So they were pushing the team to like get rid of RPG elements and add more weapons and add more cyborgs and add more monsters and like make a cool violent game, which immediately Nintendo of Japan would strike down those orders. And so these poor like fish out of water Scotsmen that just wanted to like fucking hang out and play stink pranks on each other were just kind of, they just were like, we can't.
So what happened?
The Nintendo pulled all funding, and DMA Designs went bankrupt. And they were bought out by a rival UK dev publisher called Gremlin Graphics, who promptly sold them to Rockstar. And so that's how DMA Designs became Rockstar North, and how Rockstar North became like the GTA team for Rockstar.
Gotcha.
And that is how a little shitty game called Body Harvest is responsible for GTA 3.
Wow, that's fucking bananas.
And if you play Body Harvest, if you look at footage of it, everything from the shooting mechanics to the vehicle mechanics to even the camera angles is highly, highly predictive of what Grand Theft Auto 3 would eventually become.
Oh.
So, like, Nintendo basically had GTA 3 in its hands, and they let it go.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
All because Shigeru, like he always does, just at a meeting, is like, oh, what if we did this? Bye.
Yeah. So, that brings us to GTA 3. I want to throw one other human person into the mix, and that would be Leslie Benzies, because he'll probably come up time and again, because he was the president of Rockstar North from GTA 3 through GTA 5, credited as a producer on all those games. Describes GTA 3 as a crime simulation game. GTA 3, guys. Now, this is where I join in the story. This is when the Triforce becomes complete on the people in this room playing GTA. I remember I was in college. My buddy Justin was like, you have to play this game. This game is an amazing game. And
I'm not saying that all people named Justin play GTA.
But
all people who play GTA are named Justin.
I changed my name to Justin. I picked up the game. I could not believe what I was seeing. It was it was out of this world. I mean, I was already a big fan of gangster shit and things like that, like film wise. But it was essentially that they finally gave us what we wanted in terms of like, wow, I feel like I'm in a real city with real people, and it's vibrant and it's open, and also they're letting me fucking just be as filthy and terrible as I really, really, really desperately, secretly want to be.
It did fulfill a dream that everyone always wanted, which was a virtual space to walk around without limits. Famously, GTA suffered because it didn't have like good graphics. It was kind of limited to its top-down perspective during a time where everyone was going nuts for Mario 64 and Tomb Raider and all these 3D
It had the edge.
games.
It had the attitude there, but it didn't. And GTA 2 didn't do a lot to improve upon it. And I think that the Housers sort of took that in and realized they needed to like triple down in order to be successful. They knew they had the product, but they had to like push it into this realm that was just completely over the top. I think that that's why GTA has always been something special, because it's not just that, you know, it's like I said, a lived-in city, but then it's like you add like the radio stations in and the licensed music, and you add in the fact that they got like real actors to, you know, perform the voiceover roles. You add in, you know,
pedestrians that would like react in different ways to what you were doing. Some would run away. Some would like try and fight you.
It could have just been a game where you just got to be a chaos monster, and that was it. And they just, but they made it so much bigger than that, and so much more. And I am like really lame when it comes to, I mean, a lot of things, but when it comes to like video games like this, like I'm very objective oriented, and even it's like hard for me to like break away and kind of go off. I think this was one of the first times though where I just loved causing shit, causing chaos and problems.
Hell, I liked just yanking a cab driver out of his cab and just turning the game into Crazy Taxi for like 12 minutes.
Yeah, totally. They had all those little side missions too, which did start in GTA 2, by the way.
Yeah.
They had the side missions like the taxi drivers, stuff like that, and the little like payphone missions and stuff kind of all came out of there. But it was just moving it into a 3D world, inspired by movies like Heat and shows like The Sopranos. If you remember at that time, Sopranos was fucking massive.
Yeah.
So people wanted that gangster aesthetic so bad. Actually, too, I forgot, Marcus, we have that queued up. I also remember these commercials like the back of my brain, these commercials. Because this, again, was a moment, kind of like I discussed in the Metal Gear Solid episode, the Kojima episode, how playing Metal Gear Solid for the first time, I was like, wow, I'm actually playing a movie, right? Which is ridiculous in hindsight because it's like it doesn't hold up in that way.
Triangles.
But yeah, but this trailer right here was the first time on TV I was seeing a trailer for a game that was like a fucking movie trailer. It was so cinematic and special.
I need to hear some Italians say encouraging things.
And by the way, it's like him on a rooftop with a machine gun. It's like cars.
Come on, let's introduce you to the Don.
If you do this for me, you will be a made man. Anything you want.
Marcus over there smiling.
Fond memories.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, when I think about like
Experience
GTA
has taught me
3,
that a man like you can be very loyal for the right price.
like when I think about like GTA 3 and like I think about fucking awesome times in college, getting stoned, staying up till 5 a.m. playing it with my cousin.
Yep,
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
that's all we would do. We would just sit there and like play GTA 3 and Vice City just all
And
night
that's what people
long,
are
and just
still
had
doing.
a fucking
Yeah.
and just had like the most awesome fucking time.
You know how I know? You know when you're in a real deep GTA hole is when you stop playing and you're walking around and you see a car and you instinctively like reach for the door for just a split
Yes.
second. For a split fucking
It
second.
happened.
It so happens because you're just like, oh right, that's not how I can't just take cars.
Well, speaking of which, it did cause quite a bit of fucking controversy. The National Organization for Women spoke out against the game in January 2002, asking Rockstar and Take-Two to withdraw the game from sale as it encourages violence and the degradation of women. It was initially released in Australia with an MA 15+ classification, but after re-reviewing the game, the Office of Film and Literature Classification, or OFLCL, banned it due to its depiction of sexual content and violence.
What they mean is if a prostitute enters your car, the car bounces a little bit.
It was also so I guess also we need to introduce another key player in this whole story of GTA, and that would be a man by the name of Jack Thompson. Now, I'm not sure if Marcus, if you dealt with any Jack Thompson stuff with your fun murder show.
I don't think I ever have.
He was Mr. Anti-video games, Mr. would show up at every court case, would reaching out constantly trying to get these games removed.
A born-again Christian, he thought it was his mission from God
That guy.
to shut down Rockstar.
Disbarred.
Yes, he was disbarred, and we will get to that.
No, there's
He
like
was
a huge.
promptly defeated.
That's the history of politicians and public figures trying to fuck with Grand Theft Auto is just a who's who of disgraced assholes.
Oh my God, he even went as far as getting his 16-year-old son. 10-year-old son to go into a Best Buy and he filmed him
In a
purchasing a
sting
copy
operation.
of Vice City. Yeah, that poor kid too. His son who had to plead with him. These kids are beating me up. Please don't come speak at my school. Like, it's ruining my life, like what you're doing right now. Who would later plead for them to buy him an Xbox because he was a gamer. Poor fucking kid. So, yeah, Jack Thompson comes on the scene in many different ways. There was a court case. William and Josh Buckner were two kids in June 2003. They were playing Grand Theft Auto 3, and they said, hey, let's go shoot at some cars, like, for real. So they go out, they get their parents' gun and say they're going out to, like, drive around and or play around in the. They had little carts, or so it was probably some rich family, and they were
no, that's very sad children.
sad broke children.
Sad.
They had like a big game room and stuff, and they had little not go-karts, but they were little something.
I mean,
I was jealous
one
until
was
the whole.
mentally challenged, and the
Right.
other was like lost his mom when he was 11.
Yes.
And like they were not like happy
The
kids.
story is tragic.
The story is very tragic.
They're shooting guns. They didn't think they were actually going to hurt anybody. Totally end up catching one dude in his truck and killing the guy.
Shot another person through the leg through their car. People were trying to charge them as adults for murder. They end up going to juvie, but Jack Thompson, like basically all over the world, there would be crimes. That's just like unfortunately what happens when a teenager and a gun are around enough times.
Right.
And I honestly believe that like if it wasn't GT, like it's just that's what young.
Well, before that, it was Doom with Columbine. I think Columbine and Doom really kind of started the whole spin cycle in the media.
And that's where Jack Thompson
with
kind of got his,
Crusaders.
yeah. But like, people would shoot their friends all the like for cowboy movies. It was just whatever violent thing got kids motivated to like cure boredom with guns.
Yeah, and before that, it was a Saxon hitting a German in the head with a battle axe right in front of him. Violence has always existed. kids always imitate violence. This is nothing new.
Right.
Absolutely.
But there was, I almost if I fuzzy my brain enough, I could there was that kid in who went on a rampage after getting arrested for stealing a car. Who
Yes.
went full tactical on an entire police station and stole it. It was that kid went on an actual GTA rampage, and I don't maybe in that one instance, if he hadn't for hours just the same way that when I reach for a car when I play too much GTA, but Jack Thompson was just singularly focused. And he understood the media well enough that he would get in front of all of these, while Rockstar kind of just stood back and kind of I don't know whether they just didn't want to make the controversy worse or if they were just oh, sweet, more controversy, more free press.
This is when that gets very gray.
Yeah.
It originally started with them really purposefully trying to upset the public and the media in order to just generate more sales for them, because it was just that was the way you did the guerrilla marketing. But they're also just incredibly private people. So this is the thing, too, you have to know going into all of this stuff. The Hauser brothers are do not talk to the press very much, are very insular, very closed off. So you don't get as much candid information. This is why we have to mention the book Jacked by Tony Kushner.
No, Dave. Right?
Tony Kushner wrote Angels in America, I believe.
Yeah.
Dave Kushner? Either way, his last name's Kushner. And it's a book about Rockstar Games and Grand Theft Auto and all that good stuff, right?
Yeah.
But it's not quite as good as his other book called Masters of Doom about Carmack and Romero making Doom, because he really was able to sit down with those guys and get the full story from so many different people. Whereas in this case, I don't think he really had the insight in as much. But we did get a lot of information for this episode from that book. So definitely check it out if you want a more expanded, sort of detailed and sort of also pretty fun written view of the whole Rockstar legacy.
The whole time, Grand Theft Auto is causing controversies, but they're also creating some of the best-selling games of all time.
Yeah, huge.
Basically, the GTA framework is built on what was called the renderware engine, which which helped immensely with developing games for the PlayStation 2. And it was really good for making games that ran well on PC without a graphics card. So on PC and on PlayStation 2, Grand Theft Auto was getting in the hands of a lot of people. They used a unique technology where the game world was actually streamed from the disc in real time. So there weren't any huge loading screens like would happen in other games of that era.
I remember that. God, those load times on early PlayStation. Whew. Brutal.
Still happens on PS4 now, right?
Yeah, that's true. But I don't know. I think people have taken a lot of notes from the GTA handbook in terms of that. I mean, just thinking about Witcher most recently. Cut out a lot of those load times in Witcher 3. But then Skyrim, as another example, was just so hindered by load times. It's unbelievable.
But they followed up with Vice City, which is one of my favorite games ever.
So you guys talk about fond gaming memories with GTA 3, and I have them. Oh, yes. But GTA Vice City hit at a time in my life where it was just one of the moments in my life where I just felt so happy in my life with the friends I had acquired in college at that point. It was just a really solid year. It was sophomore year of college. My whole world just got awesome. I think it was sophomore or junior year. I can't remember. But either way, I just remember.
Every day I would dip my balls in hash oil.
Exactly. It was literally that life. So I was just loving it, living it. My buddies Fike and Hobby, we would sit down. I'm dead serious. Fike and Hobby and I would sit down every day, man. They would just show up, unannounced, Kramer it up, and we would just fucking sit. I remember I think it was Hobby was the wheelman. Fike was the chaos man. It was a mission where we needed to cause the most problems in the city or
and
whatever.
And you were the face.
And I was kind of the all around. I was the run and gun guy. I could kind of do.
You were in charge of real estate acquisition.
I was in charge of putting potato chips on the table while they played the game. No, but we traded the controller off, and I don't think I've ever had a more fun time playing a video game than Vice City.
Tommy Rossetti, was that the name of the character?
I believe so.
Ray Liotta played him. That's all I remember.
Yes, it was played by Ray Liotta. This is kind of when they start getting like huge, big names in. I guess we have that queued up, right? The opening.
Oh yeah, the '80s soundtrack was so good, man.
Absolutely.
Just like cruising along fake Miami.
I also just loved that they chose Miami in the 80s. It was such a great aesthetic. And it felt like they really took everything from GTA 3 that looking back on it feels like pretty sparse. And they just brought it all up to such a level of style and look. The mission, it was just more streamlined. The story was better. The characters were better. Everybody wants to do this interactive Scarface situation.
I mean, that entire mission where you have to like fly to Washington to convince Ronald Reagan to stop funding of AIDS research, that was like real. That was heavy. But man, it was the 80s.
But it was the fucking 80s. Apparently, Sam Hauser had like the Miami Vice on VHS tapes, and he would go home on his lunch break and watch a couple episodes.
Oh, you couldn't. He had to find all the episodes on eBay because they weren't online and DVDs weren't available.
He said the grooviest era of crime because it didn't even feel like it was crime. It was a totally topsy-turvy, back-to-front period of time. They just loved that aesthetic, and so did we all. And originally it actually started out as just like an extra mission pack for GTA 3, but as the ideas started pouring in, they realized they had an entire other game. I didn't realize it came out a year after GTA 3.
They started working on it as soon as GTA 3 was out the door.
That's fucking bananas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we played both of those two games in the Parks Mechateer household. Me and my cousin, man, just fucking all the time with those fuckers. Trading up, trying to see who could fucking get the helicopter somewhere.
Yeah, it was very important. Yeah.
Those
Terrible
fucking
flight.
tiny helicopters.
Terrible flight.
Yeah,
That was
bad. That was bad. And I do, I do just have so many strong. What?
I remember one night we were playing it all night long, and we turned it off and turned on the TV, and that space shuttle crashed and exploded in the air.
Right.
That's not funny at all.
Ray Liotta, Tom Sizemore, Louis Guzman, Burt Reynolds, Dennis Hopper, Gary
Jenna
Busey,
Jameson.
who brought her father, and then she had to make sex noises in the microphone. Apparently, it was very uncomfortable. Debbie Harry as a taxi controller. You've got apparently Burt Reynolds was the worst. Apparently, like they were in between takes. He was like, he did it once. He was like, "Can you do it again, please?" And he was like, every now and again in this business, you need an attaboy. It's like, what now? You need an attaboy. And he was like, what is he? Because he was probably British. What's the blimey is this mucker talking about? And he was like, and then he finally got it across that he was saying, praise me. And he was like, no, we're not going to do that. I'm paying you a lot of money. Because this is, by the way, at a time when like this was really unheard of. So these big shot actors are coming in to do voices for video games, and they all think this is like stupid kid stuff. It was hard to get realistic voice readings from them because they it was hard to get realistic voice readings from them because
Ray Liotta famously showed up hungover.
Yeah, hungover as fuck, pissed off, like hard to work with because they, it was like kids stuff and they thought it was like a cartoon, so they would do these like exaggerated like Pixar, over the top voices and stuff. And they're like, no, we want like real performance from you. And apparently Burt Reynolds was sweating so badly in the studio that they had somebody bring in another shirt for him, and the guy came up to him and was like, this is here's your shirt, and he got like super offended by that and was like about to storm out, and he was just like a nightmare person.
So you hear that? Several thousand women from the past 5 decades don't fuck Burt Reynolds.
There you go. The music, more than 113 songs, 9 hours of recorded stuff. It was turned into a 7-album collection from Epic Records, giant crazy box set of music. And like every GTA game, this game is no stranger to its controversy.
Who killed who now?
This time, it's a war with the Haitians.
Oh fuck! I forgot about the Haitian thing.
Just like in the game.
Oh my god, this is the dumbest one.
In November 2003, the Haitian Centers Council and Haitian Americans for Human Rights staged a protest in New York City criticizing the game, contending that it invited the player to harm Haitian immigrants and claiming that it depicted Haitians as thugs, thieves, and drug dealers. There was a lot of just the talk of like, even though they were just referring to the Haitians as the Haitian gang, there was a lot of lines like, we got to kill the Haitians.
No,
And
they would just take the clips out of context because there isn't. I remember that mission. You roll out with the Cuban gang because you want to curry favor, and you have to like drive the Haitians out of their territory. And so yeah, there's a Cuban guy being like, "Kill them all, bring my boys, kill all the Haitians." And yeah, so out of context, they're like, "Well, clearly this
Kill
video
all
game
Haitians.
kill all Haitians."
In January 2004, North Miami's majority Haitian American Council filed an ordinance to ban the selling or renting of violent games to anyone under 18 without parental permission. So there's a whole thing, again, constantly fighting to get this game pulled from the shelves and everything like it. And I meant to touch on this with GTA 3, but it works here too. Starting in GTA 3, of course, the big controversy was around the fact that you could get a prostitute to get into your car, take it. There you go.
There you
There's
go.
me. That's
The car. I thought you were saying
the car.
the car.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yes, I was saying the car. Please, everyone, remember what Marcus said.
I mean, I assumed that you were talking about the car. You assumed that it was a woman, so I guess that's...
No, Marcus. No. You were correct in what you were assuming. Your assumptions.
Actually, if we play the audio back, I think actually there might have been some.
Oh, we don't need to play the audio back. In fact, can you make it so that in this exact episode you can only listen to it once? Is that a possibility?
Hard code it.
Hard code it, please. So you could take a prostitute out into the, a secluded area, have sex with a prostitute, as Jake mentioned earlier, by really just a car bumping up and down, but you knew what was going on, all right?
I didn't. I was very sheltered.
Oh, she wanted it. She was crazy for it. Once it's done, you can bid her adieu. She takes your money, a little bit of money goes, but then you can get out of the car and beat the shit out of her or shoot her in the face or run over her with your car or take a hammer to her or
Use a cheat
baseball
code to
bat.
summon a tank, run her over with a tank.
Use a cheat code to summon it. So many options in the world of GTA, and get your money right back, which was, again, it was one of those things where they would take one thing from the game that was totally fucked up, and for me personally, like. It was awesome that they would just throw shit like that in there like that. And the game is totally one of the first experiences I ever had, too, of like, I wonder if this will work. And then it, like, totally works. Or
See,
maybe
here's the thing.
doesn't.
Right now, a lot of people are playing Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and that game is full of those kind of moments
Yeah.
where it's like, oh, weird, if I combine the mushroom with the beef, I can make mushroom sauced beef. That's what a clever detail. Or like, oh, if I use a torch on a frozen or if I use a torch in a frozen area, I can use the fire to keep myself warm. What a clever detail.
Mm-hmm.
And in the world of GTA, that same creative energy is like, oh, it wouldn't be funny if you fucking kill a prostitute, you get your money back.
So completely true. Yeah. So they would take that one element and sensationalize it to no end and run with it to no end while ignoring the rest of the game. And I think that the Housers have been pretty outspoken about and frustrated with the fact that, you can do something like that, take something like that, and we will eventually get to the biggest one, which is the hot coffee controversy. But you can take something, one little thing, and disregard the whole rest of the game and what is great about the whole rest of the game. And yes, at this point in Rockstar and GTA's legacy, it's a lot of goofy, silly, tongue-in-cheek. It's a lot of dirty old man jokes and stuff like that. But eventually,
Have you played GTA 5? There's still a lot of dirty old
I know
man
there's still tons of that stuff. But
Wait,
at least,
what if this thing looked like a penis? wait, hear me out though.
But
it looks like a penis.
A lot like a penis, or a little bit like a penis?
No, it looked like a fucking ding dong dilly dwacker.
It looked like breasts, mate. Oh, those are the balls. So, but
They have healthcare and we don't.
But starting with 4, they definitely, I feel, really starting with San Andreas, they really kind of bring it more into a more, they just put a little bit more heart and soul behind the stories they're writing and things like that, and make things a little bit more dramatic and emotional. Mm-hmm. So, but of course, you have more murder cases. and things like that, and just a constant outcry from especially Jack Thompson to get these games removed from the shelves, to improve our and I will say, with GTA especially, it really was the first time where, like, it really was the transition where you couldn't just, where parents were starting to learn that there were games that were not for kids.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of, we were kind of old enough for it to not affect us, and we were lucky to grow up with these games as they grew up. But for the first time, parents would see this cartoon cover, Vice City, and think nothing of it and get it for their kid, you know? And the kid would go home and fucking enjoy some kick-ass murder, which I'm not necessarily opposed to. But, they didn't understand that it wasn't just Mario Brothers.
A word that keeps coming up with opponents of GTA is the word deception. The idea that somehow the parents were bamboozled because as its nature of a video game, it was inherently for kids, and therefore they were tricked into exposing their kids like this.
Yeah. I don't know, but it's so misleading when you look at the cover and you see the exploding cars and the guy with the gun and the woman in the bikini. Totally misleading.
But they're cartoons, right?
Oh yeah, they're cartoons. I forgot. That means they're meaningless.
Yes.
It is. It's, again, this industry had to grow up somehow, and the Housers were vehement that they were the ones to do it. A lot of internal emails, a lot of what we do get from them is a lot of like we're not making a kids game. Why are people mad that we didn't make a kids game? This is bullshit.
We're making games for adults, and we should be able to make games for adults because, the argument is true. If a film had come out and sold like as well as GTA sells and was, acclaimed by all these different groups and given all these different awards, it would be lauded and there would be zero controversy because there were already kind of things in place to allow, Pulp Fiction and things like that. We're able to, we're up for Academy Awards and things like that they weren't shit on necessarily or sort of, there wasn't a ton of controversy because the R-rated movies had their place in society and people understood that.
Yeah. But could you buy Pulp Fiction at Babbage's?
There it is.
Yeah, that's the weird, I'm old enough now that, I roll my eyes when I read a lot of the Housers talk about how, we're making real games for grown-ups, gamers are adults, and meanwhile the games themselves are like, all right, you guys shoot this prostitute at the old Tallywhacker Saloon.
Exactly. And it's so telling of just, where video games were at that point when it's no, yeah, I completely agree, Jake. So... well, we got way more of this story to tell, and I think that you and I agree unanimously right now. This is going to be a two-parter
on your favorite podcast, Wizard and Bruiser.
It's going to be a two-parter, everybody, because we got so much to talk about. Hot coffee, of course, their move into sort of trying to be more original and legitimized with GTA 4, and of course
Nico,
GTA 5.
my cousin.
Nico, we got to talk about it.
Go bowling.
So we'll get
The
more.
car mechanics, physics engine, very unwieldy. in
Very
this.
unwieldy, difficult.
A lot of fun elements were removed for the sake of realism, cousin.
Highly disappointing game.
Mod community kept it alive long enough.
Yeah, we'll get into all that shit next week. Thank you so much for joining us for our first part of the GTA franchise. I'm Holden McNeely. You can follow me on Twitch at HoldenatorsHo. Catch me at Holdenators on Twitter and listen to the Cowman. Jake?
You should listen to the Cowman. It's very good music. Follow me on Twitter at BestJakeYoung, and I often appear on the Drawfee channel on YouTube, where me and a bunch of illustrators have some good old times drawing around, goofing them up, and just generally being pleasant.
And if you see Marcus Parks in the street, honk at him. He loves it.
And say,
Fast movements, loud noises. They're like hugs to him.
He loves being scared by people on the street, so jump out at him and scream at him.
Grunga.
for more shows like the one you just listened to, go to cavecomedyradio.com.